Hello and welcome to Cinema Spoilers with Zip and Cam. I'm Zoe Bell-Kanapaux, a 22-year-old author and audiobook narrator, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host.
My name is Cameron, and I like movies.
Today we watched Final Destination 3, which is by far my favorite of the Final Destination movies. Would you agree?
No, I still think it's pretty weak sauce compared to all the other ones.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the roller coaster opening death scene.
Okay.
As we were discussing during the movie, it kind of seems like all the other deaths are, like, to begin with the other movies, they're gonna happen regardless. But this one's kind of circumstantial, where those certain people have to be on that roller coaster for this chain of events to happen.
Yes, so we'll get into that. But let's get a little bit of the nitty-gritty out of the way. So this one was directed by James Wong. So the same director as the first one, but not the second one. It's rated a 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb, a 43% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Let's get into the synopsis real quick. 6 years after a group of high school students first cheated death, another teen, Mary Elizabeth Winston, has a premonition that she and her friends will be involved in a horrifying roller coaster accident. When the vision proves true, the student and her fellow survivors must deal with the repercussions of cheating the Grim Reaper. So this one was released in 2006. It's got really great cast, I think. I think they worked really well together. Like I said, it is my favorite of all of the Final Destination movies to watch. Let me see if I can pull up a bad review real quick, because you guys know I love the good and the bad reviews.
I'm the bad review right here. No, but honestly, I just am not a fan of the opening scene, like how everything gets started. I'm not a fan of that. Otherwise, all the other deaths are pretty cool. They're, well, I guess the final scene's kind of lame as well, too, because it's kind of everywhere with who's supposed to die. It kind of seems like they ran out of time, and they're just kind of trying to rope everyone in together to kill them, you know? Whereas, it may have also just been the setting that it was at nighttime during a firework, thing.
Mm-hmm.
That it kind of made me just like, okay, I can't focus on anything here. Whereas, even within 2, where they're all in that farmer field, there's still a lot going on, but there's a lot that you can focus on. I guess it's better lit, so you can see what's really happening. Whereas with this, it's in the dark, there's fireworks going on, and then there's also crowds of people blocking what's happening, so that's just me, though.
Yeah, so a majority of the reviews that I'm seeing are either that people loved it or that people hated it just because the characters were not connected to the Flight 180 characters. Like, if you watch the first episode and the second episode of this 5 or 6 part series that we're doing in our movie marathon for September and October, we discussed Final Destination 1 and Final Destination 2. And in Final Destination 1, the individuals that are on Flight 180, some of them get removed because Alex has this premonition that the flight will not go as planned. So there are people removed from the plane, and then, of course, with the Final Destination movies, Death tries to get them back, you know. So then, in Final Destination 2, there were some loose ends left over from Final Destination 1. At the end of Final Destination 1, we see that Alex and Clear Rivers are still alive. So, death's got to catch up to them at some point. But you also see that each of the characters was individually affected and influenced by those that were in the Flight 180 plane crash. So, it's a complete interwoven story, despite having different directors and ultimately different. I'd say the movies are very, very different. Very different feels, very different shots.
Definitely. I feel like all three movies so far are completely different.
Yeah, but I was just like,
Oh,
even though
the
they're,
two that are woven together a lot better are still completely different, but still
yeah.
like mesh together better.
Yeah, so like this one is kind of its own separate thing. It's to me very akin to when you're watching American Horror Story, right? And you know that like season 2, season 1, season 3. I start with season 2 because it's very far in the past comparatively to season 1 and 3. But also season 4, they're all connected because of characters and because of mentionings and all of that sort of stuff. So you know that they're connected well. But season 5 is kind of where it starts to get a little bit off, and then season 6 as well. It sort of feels like that, where the train cars are doing that thing where they move slightly apart from each other before they clasp again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like that when you go from watching Final Destination 1 and 2 to 3, especially in our little movie marathon that we've got going on here. So, I do, however, really love this movie. I love the direction that they took in it. So let's get into it. Let's get into the nitty gritty. So, as Cameron was saying, it opens really on this fair, state fair, and for a lot of the movie, I'm always sure that it takes place in California, specifically Southern California, because they bring up the Bruins a lot, and it just seems to be such a California thing because like I grew up in California for the first few years of my life. My mom grew up there, and really anywhere else that I've lived, senior nights or senior trips weren't too popular. But in California, it was a very big thing. So, that led me to believe that it was in Southern California, as well as like the Bruins thing. And that really is also another fact that stands out to me because the first two movies are definitively set in New York. Definitively.
Definitely. They mention Brooklyn a lot and New York itself a lot, so.
And anytime they have to travel anywhere in the first two movies, they are pulling up a MapQuest or Google Maps. No, MapQuest, definitely. And it says New York every time.
New York.
So, that's another thing. And I am not alone in thinking that they're sort of less connected and it's meant to be that way. But it starts out with a group of high school seniors and one that graduated 2 years before that are just like celebrating at this fair. It's senior night, they're having fun. But the main character, Wendy, is very, very nervous every time she passes by this roller coaster. And eventually, all of her friends get into line with the roller coaster. She's personally there with her boyfriend, her friend, and her friend's boyfriend. So, they have a little bit of an argument once they get to the front of the line about who's going to sit in the front, because Wendy does not want to sit in the front. But her boyfriend does, so he says, well, why don't we switch? So, boyfriend A with girlfriend B, and vice versa. And that means that her boyfriend, Wendy's boyfriend, and her friend end up in the first car of the roller coaster. And Wendy and her friend's boyfriend end up very far toward the back. So, as Wendy is sitting down in the roller coaster, she starts to have her premonition, and it really begins with the creeper that's like sitting a few seats in front of her, the one that graduated 2 years before, He has a video camera, one of those where you have the viewfinder that you can flip over,
Camcorder.
a camcorder, and he's like, "Show me them titties." Like, he's legitimately, that's "show me them sweet titties" is what he says to one of the girls. And she's like, ugh. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. I'm not saying that, you know. But, so he has it in his hand. And as they start to make their ascent in the roller coaster, he drops it and it lands on the track. But that could be the catalyst for everything that happens. But there's so many different breaks in the tracks, and
Well, I don't deny that there's breaks in the tracks and all this. However, it just seems like if they weren't there, then it wouldn't, or it shouldn't occur. But I feel like then the entire roller coaster is just doomed to death. But I guess it's kind of like in 2 where technically the police officer should have been the first person to have died, and he was the one that caused the entire wreck after the logging truck, but it still happens without him.
yeah, it's kind of just like the law. Well,
The logging truck was going to kill everyone regardless, but it was because his vehicle came to complete halt, that the other one hit him, and then it smashed into the logging truck, and then it started a chain reaction.
Okay.
But with this one, it just seems like that camcorder is like the thing that would have ruined the roller coaster. I mean, there's plenty of other things that go wrong.
Yeah, the hydraulics break.
Yeah.
So, like, I really don't know if that was, like, the catalyst.
Yeah, it just seems
because
like
it still happens after he gets off the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Is my whole point that I've been making. It still happens after Mr. Creepo with the camcorder gets off, so he can't drop it on the tracks. But anyway, she has this premonition, and it's an okay scene. Really, it's in the recession age, the 2008 recession age, where it's like 2007 to 2012 or 13, where all movies were kind of shot like Saw.
Yeah.
Like Saw 3.
The cutting.
There's a bunch, it's like Chop. It's chopped up and sped up weird, and you know, it has that, but it doesn't ever go out through the rest of the movie. And that's a problem that I have. If you're going to make a stylistic choice, make the choice, commit.
Stick with it.
Yeah, stick with it, commit. I know I'm saying a lot of stuff that could be perceived as negative, but I really do love this movie. Anyway, after her freak out, because she has this big freak out, the back half of the roller coaster gets let off. So the front half with the boyfriend and the friend, they stay on and they die. And there's a funeral. Is there a funeral right at the beginning? Or am I mincing movies?
They talk about the funeral, but they are not actually at the funeral.
She goes to her locker at school, and she's the controller disconnected right then. Whatever, but it just keeps happening.
It's so funny.
So Wendy goes to her locker and she's cleaning it out, and she tells her, let me get his name. His name is Kevin. Kevin catches up to her and is like, "Are you going to graduation?" And she's like, "No, I'm not going to graduation. It'd just be like another funeral." And that's why I thought there was a funeral. But he's trying to convince her in the rain, in the middle of the rain, that she should go. And she's like, "Dude, we're not even friends. We never even liked each other.
We only hung out because our partners hung out with each other."
Yeah. So then she's walking to her car, but to get to her car, she has to pass through the goth couple and the Ashleys. There's two characters named Ashley.
Yeah.
And so Ashley and Ashley ask her to go tanning with them because they want to be extra bronze for graduation. And Wendy is obviously not gonna fucking go. Like, she is obviously not gonna go. But she still accepts it. She walks away. And of course, the goth kids are making fun of them, like, oh my god, totally sick, in the background. And, so Ashley and Ashley get Slurpees. We don't see them get Slurpees. We see them sipping on them, making the loudest, obnoxious fucking noises.
Oh my god. There was nothing left in the cups, and they were still slurping on them.
Oh my god, it was awful.
So annoying.
But anyway, they go to this tanning salon, and of course they're complaining about the owner, which is like, go to a different tanning salon if you're gonna complain about the owner every time you go. But he is actually, this time it's okay, I guess, to complain because he's just screaming on the phone to somebody, and
His, like, side chick, it's not even his girlfriend, and he's like explaining to these high schoolers on why he's on the phone complaining, and it's like, dude, do your job.
yeah, so they are about to get ready. They pull out these eye protection little gross things, which, fun fact, my mom used to tan like every day. She was like a Trisha Paytas tanner. Trisha Paytas was on My Strange Addiction for having a tanning addiction. My mom, yeah, she was. And she looked wild. She looked like Donald Trump. So, anyway, my mom used to go tanning all the time. All the time. And she had these little, like, they're eye protection, but they were red. And they fucking scared the shit out of me. By the way,
Eye protectors.
my mom was paying for, at one time, 2 separate tanning subscriptions. And we did not have, like, new clothes or, school supplies.
Y'all didn't have single subscription money.
Fuck no! So, anyway, she used to, like, stick around a corner with those fucking eyeglasses on to scare me. How fucking awful.
Terrible.
Yeah, I got her back, though. I got her back, though. I called the police and she got arrested.
Gotcha!
That's some lore for the long-winded podcast. It is definitely in one of the episodes. It was on my birthday. Anyway, the Ashleys forget their iPod, and so they have to go through the CDs, and one of them decides that it's too cold in there, so she turns the temperature from 68 to 73.
Jesus Christ.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Like, you're already tanning, and you need to crank up the heat more?
Disgusting. So she cranks up the heat, and then they decide on a CD to play, and it's Roller Coaster of Love. And
wonderful choice.
yes,
right after. And going to funeral at that. No, graduation. Sorry.
Yeah, so they strip down naked and they lock the main door because they're like, I don't need anybody to see me naked. And the owner is outside screaming at his girlfriend, so he's locked out because he decided that putting a bottle of
lotion,
a tube of lotion in the door would keep it well. So anyway, they're in there, they're roller coastering, they're loving, and it just slowly gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, and their skin starts bubbling, and they're like, I think it's too hot. And then the air conditioning kicks on because it has to like heat up a little bit.
Yeah.
So the air conditioning kicks on, and then Wendy calls, and it knocks the coat hanger down, and that knocks the shelf of CDs down, and it falls so perfectly that it falls in between the two girls' tanning beds in the handle, so they can't get it up. So they end up just boiling to death in this tanning bed. And my favorite shot of the movie, Cameron's favorite as well. I think it's safe to say
definitely it's my favorite shot.
It's a wonderful transition. It's an overhead shot of the two tanning beds that quickly shifts to their coffins, their caskets.
And their side-by-side caskets.
Yes. And they are the same design, different color.
Yep.
So everybody shows up to the Ashley's funeral, and Wendy sticks to Jason's plot, which is way far away from it, but she still shows up for the funeral anyway. And Jason, by the way, is her boyfriend that died. But she calls Kevin over, and Kevin's talking to her, and she shows him like a picture of the Twin Towers with an airplane, with an airplane shadowing over it. She shows him a picture of Abraham Lincoln where the
lens is cracked.
Yeah, right where he got shot. She shows him all this bullshit, and he's like, what the hell does this have to do with us? Everybody in the audience, what the hell does this have to do with us?
Honestly.
And then she finally starts to, like, bring up that she thinks that this is related to Flight 180, like she's having this experience. And he's like, I'm sorry I put these thoughts in your head. And so, anyway, she, like, nearly passes out because she hasn't eaten anything. And so he's like, let me drive you to go get some food. So they get in his truck. And his truck has to be like a 95, 96. Like, it's a very nice truck, but it does have, like, the cassette sort of system set up. I don't know, you know more about trucks than I do. So they go into the drive-thru on Wendy's request because she doesn't want to talk to anybody. And they're trying to figure out, like, who's next, what's going to happen, because at this point they figured out that the images of, it takes, like, quite a while for them to figure it out, because the images aren't quite perfect. Like, she knows that there's something weird about them, because Jason's picture is him in front of the roller coaster where he dies, but it really solidifies her theory once the Ashleys die, because their photo, by the way, she's a yearbook person, their photo is very overexposed. It looks like they're just red, like there's a red light on them. So she's looking through the photos, and she figures out that the next guy is Mr. Creeper. And they see, like, he's on a rope ladder type game. And she's like, well, maybe he hangs himself. And they're trying to figure it out. And in that moment, a beer truck, which is the same beer truck that Kimberly from the last movie sees right before her premonition, and it's the driver is drinking the beer, and it says drink responsibly on the side. It's the same beer truck, or at least the same company, backs up perpendicular to the drive-thru, and it blocks Wendy and Kevin in, so they can't get out. And she sees this moving truck. And her first thought is like, oh, the truck's gonna hit him. Like, we need to get him out of the car. Because from that rope ladder game, he won one of those, like, mud flap ladies medallions that is the shape of a mud flap lady. Mm-hmm. So she's like, oh, it's gonna be, like, a truck that gets him. And they end up seeing him 2 cars ahead. Or, no, 1 car ahead.
They don't know that it's him.
They do figure out that it's him, though.
After he's dead.
No. Right before he's dead. They see that it's him. Because they're telling him to get out of the car. Like, they're trying to get...
No, they're trying to get themselves out of the way of the truck. Because
they're honking.
Yes, because they want to go forward. He just throws up a finger. He doesn't turn around.
I'm about to fact check.
Do it.
So I can admit when I'm slightly wrong. She knows in her premonition that Frankie's gonna get hit by, like, a truck. She just doesn't know that he's right in front of her in the line. So, like, she sees before. But anyway, after that, they discover that this bodybuilder guy is the next one in line. And let me just pull up his name real quick. Lewis is his name. He is like a bodybuilder. He plays football, and he hates the Bruins because he's on the Spartans team. And in his picture, there's a Spartan in the background, and he's doing one of those games where, like, you take the hammer and you, like, throw it down, and it goes all the way up to the top, and it goes ding, 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 if you're strong enough. So they go to his training camp, and they try to talk to him. And Wendy just looks around. She gets that feeling.
That feeling of the wind.
Yeah. And so she's like trying to talk to him and trying to get him to understand. And he's like, fuck no. Fuck the Bruins. They keep saying fuck the Bruins.
Fuck the Bruins, and I control my own life.
Yeah.
I ain't never gonna die.
So then she sees these two swords on the wall that match the Spartan swords from the fair. And so she's like, ooh, like, stay away from that. And it ends up being one of those perfect storms where, like, there was too much water on the floor, which caused someone to slip, and then something hit something, and then finally it hit the swords. And they cut the wires, the metal wires.
The, like, cables that hold up the weights on the machine that he was working on.
Yes, so...
Or working out on, I should say.
So he decides in, like, a celebratory way to remove his arms from holding up these weights.
No. He lifts it again. Because he didn't see that the cables got cut. He just saw that the swords came down. So then he goes to lift it again. The weights go over his head, and they come back down and smack him in the...
Well, he stops touching it, and then he does it again. So... Then after that, obviously, he's dead. So, the next people in line, they do come out of the training center wearing all Spartans gear.
All merch, all new, brand new.
So, then they end up talking to the police, and she tells them everything. And he's like, I didn't tell them anything. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. They kept them there for 10 hours. So, after that... You see, I was about to call him Pip. That's the girlfriend's name. Oh, no. Okay, I'm wrong. So, I was right when I started to speak. They go to the next people, which are Aaron and McKinley, and they tell them, hey, you guys are next. And McKinley's being, like, goth emo from South Park, and he's like, well, what if actually we were in charge? And they're like, well, no. And it's one of those perfect storm events where they're at work at a hardware store, so, obviously something's going to happen. And he ends up he's on a forklift, and he ends up hitting the wall with all the product on it. And the other side of the wall, something drops, and it goes onto another forklift, and it drives itself, and then it knocks into a giant wall that has a bunch of fence stakes, and they almost fall on him, but he gets tackled to the ground for, like, the 18th time in this series.
Everyone gets tackled in these movies. No one's safe from the floor.
So then, after that, it's a very, very quick succession. Aaron ends up getting screwed through the head, or nailed through the head by the nail gun. And McKinley is not the same after that. He is very, very upset.
Extra emo.
Yeah. So, they end up going to the police just to talk to them about all the events that have been happening. And like I said earlier, Wendy spills everything, and Kevin doesn't say too much, because it's not his fault. There's proof that, like, he isn't doing all of these things. He's just there at an inconvenient time. So, McKinley's in the parking lot. McKinley is in his menacing van in the parking lot. And he starts to follow Wendy around. And the next scene that we see is Wendy falling asleep after her and Kevin decide that they're going to be apart for a few hours. Wendy falls asleep at her computer. And she is looking through the pictures again when she wakes up. And she looks next to her, and she sees that this charm bracelet that she was fighting with her sister about is gone. And then she zooms into the picture, and she finds out that the people that were missing from this lineup were her sister and their friends. So she's like, oh my gosh, I have to go to this tricentennial for my town. that is also happening at the same time as the fair.
Yeah.
This is like a week time span.
Well, it was the senior fair, I think.
It was senior night at the fair.
Oh, senior night at the fair. Oh.
So, anyway, she goes and she tries to find her sister, and she calls her sister, but her sister doesn't answer. She calls Kevin, and Kevin's like, I'm working security at this place.
I'm actually already here. Dude, that's the the convenience. That's like,
yes.
Why are you riding your bike at 3 a.m?
In the first movie, the character Billy is constantly riding his bike, and it's the funniest fucking... He's also constantly getting hit by a car, by Carter. So, anyway, he's like, I'm working security, and then he tells her before she leaves that she needs to check their pictures. So, she sees Kevin's picture, and it's this overexposed picture that she took because he was being a jackass. And then she checks her picture, and it's just her with a t-shirt that says McKinley on it. And that's the high school that they go to, is McKinley High School. And Ian McKinley is the guy that she decides is going to kill her. So they figure out that Kevin's probably going to die because a firework's going to get him. And
blow up in his face.
Yeah. And Wendy's going to die because McKinley's going to get her. So she drives to the Tricentennial, and who's following her? Guess who? No one else but McKinley. So she speeds up and starts driving really raucously, and she finally gets there, and Kevin finds her sister. So he's like trying to flag her down and everything, and they eventually end up realizing that, like, this is the scene where it fucking happens. This is the scene. There's always a scene in each of the movies where, like, 1, 2, 3, doom, doom, doom. Like, gone, gone, gone.
Yeah.
Because...
where Death's just like, man, fuck you, I'm gonna get you all at once.
Yes. There is a fake-out scene in the first movie where with the train. But the second movie, they're all in this farm field, and it just so happens that, like, all of them start fucking dying. But anyway, this is the scene where it all happens. So it starts with Julie, who is Wendy's sister, getting chased by a horse. The horse has spikes, a rope in a spike, and it ends up wrapping around her neck and pulling her along. And so Kevin tries to help, and he ends up eventually getting the horse to stop, and he cuts the rope, and she's okay. The next person on the list is one of Julie's unnamed friends. And at this point, Wendy has met up with the rest of them. And the friend stands up, and she's impaled by a giant spike.
It's a flag.
Oh, she's impaled by a flag.
Yeah, and that she, like, gets impaled from behind, and the flag goes into the ground. She kind of lifts and raises the flag with her body.
Yikes. And then the other one dies by the horse, right?
No, the other one doesn't die.
Oh.
It was just that one friend, because she was the one that was sitting next to her sister. The other one was safe.
So, then, it's,
what's her face?
Wendy?
Yeah.
So then it's Wendy's turn, and she meets McKinley, and he's, like, taunting her across this field. And he's like, tell me how to do it! We'll get it done! We'll get it started! And she's like, you stay away from me! You stay away from me! And so he's, like, fighting her, and he's planning on killing her, really. He's just pissed off because he did suggest that she kill herself to stop this from all happening. But little did he know, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have, because that's not the design. That's not the new design.
Game's death plan.
So, anyway, he gets hit by the Tricentennial McKinley sign. And then it goes to a new scene. It does that thing where it goes to a new scene. Each of these movies just goes to the new scene that's like 6 months later, 6 minutes later. Anyway, now, Wendy's in New York. She's with her roommate and her friend, and they're on the subway, and they're planning on getting food, and they're planning on meeting Julie, and they're on the subway. So she starts to get this premonition, and she feels fucking awful. And really, the premonition shows that she runs into her sister first before.
Yeah, she runs into her sister first. She comes onto the train. But before her sister even gets on, she starts noticing, like, all the ads in the train are for all the companies, for, like, either the people that were working at the hardware store, their store that they died at, and then the tanning salon place was also advertised there, and there was also another one that said, like, you can't escape death.
And there was another one for Crashco Airlines. My book Crash has often been compared to Final Destination, the first one. And I don't know if it's because of the plane crash, per se, or... Did you see how I slipped that in? Per se. Or if it's because of the supernatural elements. But Crash follows the 4 survivors who are stranded on a deserted island after their plane crashes. They must put their heads together to figure out a way off the island, but that proves difficult. They find soon that they have a lot in common, and they're very freaked out by that. So why do they have so much in common? How long is it going to take to get off the island? Can they even get off the island? Is anybody looking for them? All that and more in Crash. That was off the top of my head. Yeah. I was just gonna read it off, but then I was like, whatever. Anyway, back to Final Destination. So she sees all of these ads and she's like, I have to get off. Like, she suggests to her friends, she's like, let's just walk the rest of the way. It's only 1 block. But they're like, it's freezing out. No. She's like, the air will feel good. So she starts to get off, but she runs into her sister. And her sister's like, yeah, Dad's car just, like, broke down. And so we decided to go on the subway. Just her decided to go on the subway. And then she looks over and she sees Kevin in the corner of the subway car.
He's just chilling.
Yes. And so then the premonition of the subway car crashing comes true. Boom.
Something in the wind. I can't wait till that one comes on. That is the best, like, Final Destination song.
In the wind, we're all just dust in the wind.
Is this the karaoke part of the episode?
Yeah. You guys can't see, but when I sing that song, I have massive underbite. Just in the wind. It's fucking awful. I like the song, but it's been tainted for me.
Because of Final Destination?
Yes.
This is the one where people fear
tanning beds?
Tanning beds, yes.
The film that made people fear tanning beds. But there's a book that'll make you fear movie theaters. I got you. Pranked ya. But really, no, there is a book coming out that'll make you fear a movie theater. And it's called Double Feature. A trip to the movies turns feral when 10 individuals are trapped within the auditoriums. An apocalypse caused by corporate greed leaves 6 children, 2 theater workers, a couple, and a mortician scrambling to figure out how to survive off stale popcorn and candy bars. How much of the world is left? What can be done to prolong their lives? Why are things so eerie within the concrete walls of the picture house? Find out in Double Feature, which comes out
at the end of September.
October 30th.
Oh.
Yikes. -6 points for him.
Darn. I'm sorry. I don't control the book releases.
He don't listen either. But anyway, you should tune in and listen to the next episode, which will be Final Destination 4, The Final Destination. It's one of those where they don't just go chronologically after going chronologically for multiple movies beforehand. It's Scream 5, but it's just Scream.
Yes.
That's what it is. So you can expect to see that tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
What did you just say?
I said bye. Go watch our other videos.
Hee 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 hee.